Round 1.
Salve Omnes, and welcome back to the channel. I have another guide video for you, and this time we're looking at the Year 3 Viking Heavy Class DLC hero, Jormungandr. Probably the most anticipated hero of Year 3, most likely due to the Jormungandr's weapon of choice, a hammer, and the dev's pet name for this loud cultist warrior being Stamina Freaking Monster. This guide will assume that you know the basics of For Honor combat, and you're also familiar with the terminology, such as guard breaks, parrying, chains and feints, etc., and is aimed at new and existing players to help learn a new character. As usual, we will begin the guide with Jormungandr's chains. Jormungandr has 4 chains, all of which consist of 2 attacks. Midgard Burst is 2 light attacks, Midgard Smite is a light followed by a heavy, Utgard Burst is a heavy attack into a light, and Utgard Smite is a heavy opener into a heavy finisher. Light openers deal 16 damage and have a speed of 500 milliseconds, regardless of which direction the light comes from. Light attacks are also enhanced, meaning that Jormungandr is not interrupted when his or her light attacks are blocked and can continue the chain. Light finishers also have a speed of 500 milliseconds. They deal 18 damage and have the undodgeable property, meaning that your opponent cannot evade them. Undodgeable attacks are represented by a blue trail. Light finishers are also enhanced, meaning that Jormungandr is not interrupted when blocked and deals chip damage. These light finishers can also ledge opponents if they successfully hit them. Side heavy openers deal 25 damage and have a speed of 800 milliseconds. Top heavy openers are a little slower at 900 milliseconds, but deal 30 damage. Both heavy openers have uninterruptible stance or hyper armor that starts 400 milliseconds into the attack. Hyper armor is represented on screen by a white flash on Jormungandr during the attack. This can be used to trade with your opponents provided that you have sufficient HP to take an attack, as hyper armor does not reduce damage that you receive. Heavy finishers are 800 milliseconds from all sides and deal 30 damage. These attacks are unblockable but also have additional properties. Side heavy finishers have a throw effect. Left heavy finishers will knock your opponent a short distance to the right, and right heavy finishers will knock your opponent to the left. These can be used to knock your opponent into walls and other environmental hazards such as spikes or ledges. Top heavy finishers do cause a knockback effect but cannot wall splat your opponent. Heavy finishers that connect with an opponent who is out of stamina will unbalance them. This is a key part of Jormungandr's playstyle, which I will go into more detail about later in the video. When out of lock and sprinting towards your opponent, press heavy attack to perform Zealot's Stride. This attack always strikes your opponent's left guard and deals 25 damage. It cannot be feinted once started and has a speed of 700 milliseconds. Zealot's Stride, unlike most sprint attacks however, does function as a chain starter, allowing you access to your chain finishers. Jormungandr's zone attack is a single strike that targets the opponent's left guard. It deals 18 damage and has a speed of 500 milliseconds. The zone attack does function as a chain starter, so can be used to access your light and heavy finishers alongside Jotun Farewell. While this is an option for starting chains, it should be used sparingly, as zone attacks typically consume large amounts of stamina. Dodge forwards and press heavy attack to perform Serpent Smite. This attack always strikes top guard and deals 25 damage. It has a speed of 1000 milliseconds and also has uninterruptible stance or hyper armor. The hyper armor starts up 100 milliseconds into the attack, so it can be used to win favourable trades against light attack happy opponents. Serpent Smite also functions as a chain starter and can be inputted between 100 milliseconds and 300 milliseconds into the dodge to add a little degree of flexibility to your attack timings. Lastly, Serpent Smite can be feinted regularly, or it can be soft feinted into guard break. To do this, simply press guard break during the Serpent Smite. This option will catch opponents trying to dodge or parry, but will also lose to superior light attacks like those belonging to Warden or Valkyrie for example. Jotun Surge is performed by pressing backwards movement and guard break at the same time when in neutral. This is an unblockable bash that does not deal physical damage. Instead, this deals 35 stamina damage and pauses your opponent's stamina regeneration for 2 seconds if it hits. Jotun Surge has a speed of 600 milliseconds and can function as a chain starter whether you hit or miss with the bash. Against out of stamina opponents, it will cause an unbalance, and only when used on out of stamina opponents can it be used to ledge them. Jotun Grudge is a parry counter option that is performed by pressing guard break after a successful parry. It deals 10 stamina damage and will unbalance out of stamina opponents. Jotun Grudge can chain into either your light or heavy finishers, and using a light finisher will be confirmed to land. Jotun Farewell is performed by pressing guard break after any opener except Jotun Surge and Jotun Grudge. It is a 500 milliseconds unblockable bash that deals 45 stamina damage. This is like Jormungandr's other Jotun bashes and have the same effects of pausing your opponent's stamina regeneration for 2 seconds and unbalancing out of stamina opponents. Once again, only being able to ledge opponents who are in fact out of stamina when hit with the bash. Upon successfully guard breaking your opponent, press light attack immediately after to perform Jotun Gift. How a knee to the crotch is a gift I have no idea. However, this bash deals 40 stamina damage and pauses your opponent's stamina regeneration for 2 seconds. Jotun Gift also causes your opponent to become unbalanced if they are out of stamina when hit. Jotun Gift also has a couple of follow-up options available. You can either press guard break after the Jotun Gift to throw your opponent, or you can press a light attack after the Jotun Gift to connect a light opener. With multiple ways to unbalance your opponents and reduce their stamina, Jormungandr has the perfect reward for all that stamina damage. If you successfully unbalance your opponent, simply pressing heavy attack will perform the Hammer Slam. This attack will deal 50 damage and has uninterruptible stance or hyper armor that starts 100 milliseconds into the attack. This is basically the goal of the Jormungandr. Get your opponent out of stamina and Hammer Slam them. This attack does have other properties, however, that do need to be understood. First of which is that upon a successful Hammer Slam, both you and your opponent will fully recover all stamina. And second is that delaying your Hammer Slam will allow your opponent to defend against it, either by blocking or parrying, or guard breaking as it's unsafe if delayed. Now for punishers. Guard break nets you a side heavy for 25 damage, top heavy is too slow and can be blocked. Alternatively, you can sacrifice a little damage by going for Jotun Gift into light attack. This will do 40 stamina damage and 16 physical damage and start your chain. Wall splats allow you to confirm a top heavy for 30 damage. You can also opt to use Jotun Gift right before throwing your opponent into the wall for an additional 40 stamina damage and then doing the top heavy. Jotun Surge is also confirmed on a wall splat for 35 stamina damage. Once again, you can utilise Jotun Gift first, then throw your opponent to the wall, and then use Jotun Surge for a total of 75 stamina damage. You should have no problem getting a top heavy if the wall splat happened by way of a side heavy finisher. This can be blocked if you're too close to the wall though, and against flatter walls than those that are found in the pit map. If you're unsure if the top heavy will land, or you don't want to be locked into that lengthy animation, you have other confirmed options. These being Jotun Surge, your zone attack, you should use this carefully though as the zone attack itself can hit the wall if you have bad positioning, and a light attack from any direction. Parrying a heavy attack will net you a light attack from any direction for 16 damage. Your zone attack is also confirmed for 18 damage from a heavy parry. This is probably your best option when you are outnumbered. You can opt to deal additional stamina damage with Jotun Grudge and follow up with a light finisher for 18 damage. And if Jotun Grudge causes your opponent to become unbalanced, simply Hammer Slam for 50 damage. When parrying a light attack, you get your top heavy for 30 damage. If your light parry puts your opponent out of stamina, follow up with Jotun Grudge and then Hammer Slam for 50 damage. If you manage to guard break your opponent when out of stamina, you can get a light for 16 damage. Parrying a light when you're out of stamina also gives you a light of your own for 16 damage. Wall splatting an enemy when you're out of stamina should give you a top heavy, providing that you have the correct distance between yourself and the wall. If you're too close, your heavy can be blocked. Should you find yourself too close to the wall when you throw your opponent, use a side heavy for 25 damage. The simplest punish for an out of stamina throw is the Hammer Slam for 50 damage. Your throw direction does not matter in this scenario, and it's best done if you know your opponent has less than 2 bars of HP. However, there is a more damaging punish. Throw your opponent to the side and unlock. Lock back on again and then immediately throw a light, followed by a heavy finisher. The finisher heavy should knock your opponent down, allowing the Hammer Slam to connect for a total of 80 damage. The timing is quite tricky and requires practice. Jormungandr's guard is on the right by default, so that will be your clue that your unlock and lock-on timing was successful. An alternative way to achieve this punish is to throw forwards, input your zone attack into heavy finisher, and then hammer slam. Be mindful that this method is incredibly stamina consuming and should not be attempted unless you have plenty of stamina remaining. Just like with out of stamina throws, out of stamina parries simply have the option of a 50 damage hammer slam. Once again, use this option if you know it will secure the kill. You can also opt to do a light into heavy finisher for 46 damage. Whilst this is less damaging, the benefit is that your opponent will remain out of stamina, unlike the hammer slam, which you can then try to take advantage of. There is of course an even better punish, but for this you have to pay attention to which attack direction you are parrying. For a top attack, dodge either to the left or right, throw a light attack without changing your guard direction, and then use a heavy finisher, which will cause a knockdown, allowing your hammer slam to connect. Side parries work the same, except this time you have to dodge in the direction of the attack that you parried. Then you input a light without changing your guard direction into heavy finisher, and hammer slam for a total of 80 damage. Revenge activation is nice and simple, just hammer slam for 65 damage. Jotun Salve heals 10 HP for every successful bash that you land on your opponent. These are Jotun Surge, Farewell, Gift and Grudge. Since Jormungandr's bashes are a key part of the hero's kit and playstyle, this is a great tier 1 choice, allowing you to recover as you drain your opponent's stamina. In Breach, this is an excellent way to heal just by bullying officers with your bashes. Body Count heals 2 HP and 2 stamina per minion, archer or pikeman kill. This is a feat best used in Dominion and is a good choice if you intend to fight in the mid lane. But while Jormungandr can clear minions fairly well, he is best served by following around an ally that can knock enemies down, like Raider or Tiandi. Tireless simply reduces the stamina cost of actions by 17%. This will let you attack a little more frequently, but giving up either Jotun Salve or Body Count, 2 healing feats, for this is not recommended. Hammer's Favour grants you a 40 HP shield that lasts for 10 seconds upon successfully landing a hammer slam. This is mandatory for Jormungandr. The hammer slam, while damaging, has a long recovery, meaning that if you use it in a team fight, you are likely going to eat an enemy heavy attack. This feat is also amazing for when you are the target of a gank, as the 10-second countdown does not start until you exit Revenge. Centurion's March gives you unlimited stamina for 15 seconds, 60-second cooldown. The only 2 uses this feat have is to instantly recover from an out of stamina state, or to shut down bash pressure from opposing Jormungandrs. Outside of that, this is basically a meme feat, and even a meme isn't worth losing Hamar's favour. Righteous Deflection grants a 50% damage reduction buff that lasts for 5 seconds after a successful parry, 10-second cooldown. A great feat for stalling, as you can reduce the damage of a guaranteed setup gank like Shaman's Bite. However, in Jormungandr's case, Hamar's Favour will help you stall for a lot longer. Zealot's Bolt is a projectile feat that launches a hammer at the opponent. It deals 25 damage and drains all of the target's stamina. Zealot's Bolt also causes wall splats and can be used to knock opponents into environmental hazards. 2-minute cooldown. This has a pretty obvious animation once you've seen it a couple of times, and the accompanying voice line telegraphs this feat way too much to be useful. It also feeds Revenge, and if it hits a teammate, will put them out of stamina. The feat can work, but it's one of the worst projectile feats in my opinion. Punch Through doubles chip damage your opponents take from blocking your attacks. The effectiveness of this feat will vary from hero to hero, but since Jormungandr has enhanced light attacks, this is a pretty good feat to use, as you will still be getting in decent damage. Hard to Kill gives you a damage reduction buff based on how much HP you have remaining. Jormungandr has 130 HP total, and the damage reduction increases will get higher the less HP you have. At full health you will not gain any benefit. Between 100 and 129 HP you will get a 5% increase, 70 to 99 HP yields a 10% buff, between 40 and 69 HP gives 20%, and between 1 and 39 HP will yield 30%. The problem this feat has is that it doesn't stack with other damage reduction perks or feats such as Bastion, which reduces the effective HP you gain from running this. It can help out in dire situations if you're running Hamarr's favour, are in revenge often, and have relatively low HP, but how long you can stay off being killed is going to come down to your skill and the situation you're in versus your opponents. Twilight of the Gods sees Jormungandr slam the hammer into the ground, which causes an 8 meter AoE radius in front of the point of activation. It takes 1500 milliseconds to activate and has hyper armor. The feat deals 25 damage to all opponents caught in the radius and will unbalance all opponents that are hit. 150-second cooldown. So, other than shouting Ragnarok, the best thing that this feat has going for it is that so long as you catch one opponent, you're getting a hammer slam. This will also let your teammates capitalise on the downed opponents, but they will take minor damage and be staggered if they are caught in the AoE radius. The downside this feat has is its speed. 1500 milliseconds, which is a second and a half, is plenty of time for someone to bash you out of this, so be careful using it for the purposes of anti-ganking if one of your opponents has access to a bash. Scout will inflict Marked for Death on all enemies across the map. They will show up on the radar and will be visible through walls. Enemies will have a 25% increase to their stamina consumption and take 15% more damage for 20 seconds. 180-second cooldown. Best used with a coordinated team, but this can help in critical teamfights and against a team that is breaking for easier tracking and takedowns. Auto Revive will automatically revive you 2 seconds after dying. This feat cannot activate if you were executed or killed by the environment. Once it has activated, it will have a 180-second cooldown. A second chance at a fight when you've been taken out is always a good thing, and it can give you the element of surprise on opponents that think they had the better of you. Jormungandr has pretty decent perk choices. Aegis, which I don't normally recommend, has good synergy with the Hamarr's favour feat, and in turn also works with the must-use Vengeful Barrier. Add in Shields Up or Bulk Up and the Hard to Kill feat, and with good defences, you can become a real pain for any would-be ganker. Fresh Focus remains a strong defensive perk to reduce downtime when you're out of stamina, and remember that if you intend to run Hard to Kill, Bastion or Last Stand will not stack with it.
Round 4.
In conclusion, Jormungandr feels like a poorly designed hero. In a game where most of the heroes feel starved for stamina to maintain their offense, including Jormungandr, a stamina bully archetype feels out of place. The many bash options are prone to dodge attack counters, and even the hammer slam will leave you very vulnerable in teamfights without the shield granted by Hammer's favour. That said, the hammer slam is very satisfying to use, and there's nothing quite like seeing out of stamina opponents panic at the mere sight of you approaching them. If you found this guide helpful, then please leave it a like and consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Remember to tick the bell icon to receive notifications of new content, and please comment down below if I've missed anything out or you have any questions. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.